Hi, I'm Lauretta and this is my sister,
Sharon.
We are founders of the plant-based retreat, The Detox Barn, and we're also a comedy double act. I know, funny vegans. Shoot me now.
9 years ago, I was diagnosed with a chronic autoimmune disease and got myself better using a plant-based diet. Since then, I've just fallen in love with living well.
I retrained as a natural vegan chef, and each week we'll be interviewing experts in the wellness industry, as well as sharing the highs and lows of trying to live well as single mums living together with our 2 kids.
How well have we lived this week? Well, we've had a pretty good week. It's been hard, I think, with the news, the constant news, the Trump, the Epstein, and it's been fascinating, not in a good way, when you see people in the wellness space, Peter Attia, who has been in the Epstein files 1,800 times.
And Deepak Chopra. I mean, I was doing Deepak's meditations all through lockdown.
Yeah, and it makes you quite angry because you think, you know, these people are making money out of the wellness space.
But they're all actually a bit handsy.
Well, not just handsy, but
they're awful.
But you know, one of the emails from Peter Attia was,
"Pussy is low carb now." I've got to admit, that did actually make me laugh.
Pussy is
I
low
know,
carb.
It's awful. It's not funny.
It's
not
funny.
funny.
It's not. It's funny if it was in a script and
Yes,
it was a
exactly.
dark comedy,
a character. Not in real life. That is not funny at all. But
it's awful.
I just thought the comedic. I was like, oh god, that's a brilliant line in a script.
But you know, we were thinking about, you know, these kind of
wellness bro.
Hey, I'm a wellness bro.
I was listening to one this week at the School of Greatness, and I love the School of Greatness, but it's all these abbreviations for like really simple thing, like, you know, my FPW in the mornings is what I call it, fast-paced walk.
Yeah.
I'm like, do you have to call it FPW?
Yeah. My strategy for the morning is
FPW
black coffee, followed by squats, followed by cold dip. Well, I got CSC, coffee, squats, cold plunge. It's all about optimizing your life. You know, I am a wellness bro. I am ripped. I've got a 6-pack. I strategize my day within an inch of its life. There's not 1 minute that's not time wasted because I'm a wellness bro. I'm going to make you all 25 years younger using my products. Protein bars, $29.99. They're gonna make you young and make me millions while I secretly email some sex offender.
I also think sometimes it's the kind of like earnest self-worth. It's just like, you know, man, when I learned to be grateful, when I learned to give back, I wake up the day, how can I serve? Who can I serve?
While selling your protein bars.
Yeah, and
just be honest.
I'm saying, like,
you don't want to give back. You
Yeah.
want to look like you're giving back so that then you can justify taking fucking millions.
Yeah,
and
it's like-
secretly emailing pedos.
yeah, it's like, you know, who can I serve? I'm so grateful, man. When I was at the bottom of the pit, sleeping on my sister's couch, what can I be grateful for? Wow, this couch is springy. I'm grateful for the springs.
I'm grateful that I'm breathing in oxygen.
And also, what they do as well is, other than saying how grateful they are, they manipulatively shoehorn in what a good person they are.
Yeah.
It's like when I choose a team, man, you know, I look at their background, I take them out for dinner. Well, how can I serve you as your boss? How can I serve you? That's the difference. Not how can they serve me. How can I serve you? It's like, oh, fuck off. Also, as well, while they're doing this, it's like they're both having this wellness bro off. Like Jay Shetty is what he is. I like his podcast, don't get me wrong, but he is also one of these people where they go, but man, you came for nothing. No, you did, man. But when I learned to be grateful, when I learned to give back,
that's when I started manifesting. Because we're wellness bros.
We're wellness bros, and you manifest, man, by giving back, by valuing others. And it's just like, I don't think you are just valuing others and giving back all the time.
It's a huge money-making machine.
And also, so I often think that about these podcasts. They're basically, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say this, but they're basically sometimes wanking each other off, these kind of white male wellness gurus.
Earnest,
just wanking each other off about how amazing they both are. And then they're in the fucking Epstein files. Do you know what I mean? Wanking's probably the wrong
and not all of them, but it's
you just sort of go, really? I mean, Deepak, really? Seriously? You're Oprah's right-hand man. You're in the files, dude. You're in the files.
What was it he said?
Girls are cute or something.
Yeah, God is
That's not required.
God is good, girls are cute, something.
That's just, they shouldn't be switched together.
No.
God and girls being cute.
and cute girls don't go in
No,
the same bracket
that's
or
when
the
you
same
get-
sentence.
That's when you get cults and gurus and just sex offenders lording it around as gurus.
But it-
who do you believe? Believe us. Funky coffee. No, I'm joking.
Join the waitlist.
Join the waitlist. Subscribe now.
10% off our next retreat.
Yeah, and I'm manifesting all of this because I want to serve. I'm serving you with my coffee. It's when people do this, they're blatantly selling, right? And they're going, I'm just bringing this coffee out into the world because I want to help people. You don't want to help people. People are buying your fucking products. You've got a really good product. Fair enough. Make some money out of it. Just call it for what it is. Don't tell me that you're helping me or you're serving me. You're not. You're serving your own pockets. And
Yeah.
good on you.
Yeah.
I admire an entrepreneur. Good on you. But do not bullshit me.
Yes, I think
Yeah,
it's
I
that.
guess.
I think it's that thing, sort of selling disguised as community
Service.
welfare.
It's community service. It's not community service.
Yeah, you know, I keep signing up to these things where, you know, there's a free course, and then I get trapped. It's not a free course. There's this video going, it's £1,000 to join the life coach that's going to help you make billions on TikTok.
There's never a free course.
Never.
There's never a free course. Forget about it.
So anyway, I think
If you're going to do a course, pay for it. But
Yes.
just don't hoodwink me into paying for it.
because then I hate you because you've wasted my time. So I think for us, it's about, you know, being authentic, being genuine. You know, call it out. Just say it.
Call it out.
Yeah. man.
But the words
No.
being authentic, I thought you were actually taking the piss then.
No.
For us, it's about being authentic, being genuine.
Well, it
Even
is,
that
you can-
sounded a bit.
Well, no. I mean, but it is
Wellness sis. What's the opposite to wellness bro?
wellness.
Wellness sis. See, it's not even a word for
There's
it.
not even a word for
Because
the
the
wellness
girls,
girls
no.
because we're not, you
Just
know,
not prominent enough.
and we're not making.
You guys can
the
change
mega
this.
bucks.
Share, like, subscribe.
Join the waitlist. Join the waitlist.
Join the waitlist. There is no fucking waitlist.
no-
We know that.
Anyone
If there
that
was a waitlist, you wouldn't need to be advertising it.
No, there's no waitlist.
Ah.
Anyone that says join the waitlist, you know.
No, you know,
this
there's
is
no
a
one
selling
signed up.
strategy.
Nobody has signed up.
No.
Anyway, this week we are
Who wants to join the waitlist to find out when the next podcast is dropping? Just say
waitlist.
So this week on the podcast, we are going to be interviewing Sophie Millican MBE, and she is a very, very, very successful entrepreneur. And yeah, it's a really interesting podcast about women in business and all the kind of stuff that me and Sharon are interested in.
So I hope you are too. She's quite an extraordinary woman.
This episode is sponsored by us, Gavin Sisters, and our very first product, Funky Coffee. It's triple
Paid a fortune to sponsor this.
Yeah, we're paying ourselves.
Yeah.
It's triple certified organic Arabica coffee, and it's boosted with potent adaptogens. The health benefits are many, but don't just take our word for it.
Yeah, instead of us banging on about it, we decided to test our coffee out with our guests at the Detox Barn and take a listen to what they have to say.
They're not getting paid.
No one's getting paid here. Let's be honest.
So we've just served funky coffee at the Detox Barn. What did everybody think?
Coffee is amazing, and it's not bitter, and it tastes like real coffee.
I was very sceptical, but absolutely it was stunning.
Oh, lovely. Thank you. And did you find, because you had it yesterday, did you find you had a crash afterwards, or did you feel like you had sustained energy?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
They want to buy shares in the company. Okay, thanks everybody. For our listeners, you can get 10% off. Go to gavinsisters.co.uk and use the code podcast at checkout. Today's guest is Sophie Millican MBE, an award-winning entrepreneur, author and all-round champion for women in business. Sophie is the CEO of Moja, a company dedicated to helping business leaders build powerful personal brands. Before that, she founded SRS and grew it into one of the UK's leading employability consultancies. Honoured with an MBE in 2023 for her services to business and education, Sophie's also the chair of SmartWorks Newcastle, supporting women into employment. She's a passionate advocate for empowering others to reach their potential. And we wanted to talk to her today as both Sharon and I are entrepreneurs, growing our brand in midlife, and we wanted some inspiration and thoughts of women in business. So Sophie, Sharon and I, we go from really feeling like we're unstoppable, ball breakers, women in business.
Let's do this.
We can do this.
Let's get in the boardroom.
Yeah.
We don't have a boardroom, it's a kitchen table, but yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah.
2, I don't know whether I should just sell my house, downsize,
And Potter.
potter in the garden, and what am I
I'm
doing?
tired. Do you know what I mean? We literally get, it's a bit bipolar. I go from, oh my God, yeah, I can see this, and let's grow this, and then there's that, and then there's that program, and then I go, like, literally be 2 days later going, I'm so fucking tired. Like, I'm exhausted. Am I too old to do this? You know, did you ever feel like that? I mean, obviously I know you started a lot younger than us, but did you ever feel a bit like that?
I think everyone feels
Do
like that.
you?
I feel like that every week,
Yeah.
day by day. Sometimes.
Yeah, it's good to
It's
hear.
so normal, and I think that is part of the fun of entrepreneurial life. I think it absolutely is, and I think if you're not experiencing those highs and lows, then you're probably not doing it right.
Okay, that's
So it's
really
fine.
good to hear.
It's normal, but it is
Yeah.
hard, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really hard.
It's not for the faint-hearted.
No, it's not. I mean, it's at least it's not boring. I did say that to you the other day. I was like, at least it's not this. I was always slightly attracted to extremes. I think because we had a comedy career as well, and there's that. You know, there's nothing better than the high of a comedy gig that goes well, and there's nothing worse than the shame of when it goes badly. But it's the extremes. Yeah. I think for me, there was something about not living a void, like a very sort of mundane existence that I was drawn to. But it is quite tiring.
It is.
So tell us about your journey and your kind of through line into being such a successful entrepreneur.
Do you know, I think it's harder as you get older to answer this question, isn't it? Because there's so much more to add on. It makes you feel really old. But I had quite a traditional path in that I went through school. I was quite average. I didn't really try very hard. I just did enough to get to the next stage. It's like a game, isn't it? Went off to uni because my parents were the first in their family to go to uni. So then they were like, you all need to go to university. Don't know why, you just should do this. So I went off to uni in Leeds, and I'm from Newcastle, and Leeds felt like not a scary place to go to, although actually Leeds is way bigger than Newcastle, so it did feel quite intimidating. I wanted to be a fashion buyer. That was the thing that I wanted to be. Didn't really know why. I thought it was glamorous and travel.
It sounds good, doesn't
Sounds
it?
great. And then first week in uni, realised that I would have to move to London, and for me at that point London was terrifying. I think I'd been there once. My granny lived in Brighton, so we'd pass through on the train sometimes, but that was kind of my exposure to London. So that just put me off. And then I went through uni. I had a really cool job at uni where I ended up running the VIP bar in one of these super nightclubs. Do you remember them in the late 90s?
Yeah.
This massive club in Leeds. It was huge. It was opposite the station. It's now the Channel 4 head office building. But it was an amazing job. I loved it. I worked crazy hours that just make me shudder now just to think about the hours that I used to do in terms of what time I'd go to bed, and scary. But it was incredible because I made loads of friends. I learnt loads in terms of business because I ended up doing a little placement there as part of my course, and I met loads of celebrities. So I loved that. And I was like 19, 20. It was really cool. But I then applied to the John Lewis local graduate scheme back at Newcastle because I didn't want to come to London. Did 4 or 5 years maybe there. They used to tap me on the shoulder and say, right, we need you to move to this department, because I got promoted quite quickly after 3 months then. So I'd move around and do different departments and sort of troubleshoot in each department. And then I get another tap on the shoulder, you need to leave. Like, you need to go to London if you're going to progress your career. I've been resisting this for so long, but okay. My confidence was up a bit by then. I had no responsibilities. That is the time to make those moves and to take some of those risks. So I went on a 6-month secondment down to the head office, which was on Victoria Street. It's moved now, I think, which is quite frightening. But I mean, that business is so different from when I was there. So went there for 6 months, and then that turned into 8 years, and I spent most of that time living in London. But the last few years I'd actually moved back to Newcastle, got married, had my daughter, and was commuting from Newcastle to London.
Oh my God.
Not every day. That would be completely nuts. But I was doing it once a week. I'd come down on the Monday and I would do 2 really long days in the office. I'd stay over. I've got a brother that's moved down here. I'd stay over at his or stay at a friend's. And then I'd go back late on the Tuesday night. I would do Wednesday and Thursday from home, and then I'd be off on the Friday. So I was doing compressed hours, so full time over those 4 days. Really quite...
That's full on. With a baby, did you say?
Yeah, and quite modern actually for then, because that would have been like 2000... Well, when was she born? 2000. 2012. So it was, 2012, 2013. That was quite a modern arrangement. This was before COVID. So it was pretty cool. And my boss wanted to keep me, so that, it worked for a while. Then it got to the point where John Lewis went through the first of what's been about 50 restructures since. I think I've got one friend that's still clinging on. Everyone else is gone. And I was looking for jobs back in the Northeast. By this point, I was head of graduate recruitment. So it was a good job. It was a well-paid job. I really loved it. But I couldn't find anything similar in the Northeast in terms of the type of role or the pay. Again, I think that's moved on a bit because of flexible working, etc. But at the time, I didn't. And I was like early 30s. And I thought, I do not want to take that much of a step backwards. I could have done sideways or a little step back if I could see the progress, quite quickly after that point. But it just wasn't there. So I set up the first business out of necessity rather than anything else, which is quite funny when I look back, giving up that corporate career and starting that first business.
Yeah, because I was going to say, that's a really brave move.
Yeah.
Did you
To
see
start,
it as
you've never
brave?
had your own business before. That's really brave.
I think there's a couple of things. I think looking back, I was very entrepreneurial as a child,
Yeah,
right?
it's gotta be in there.
Yeah, it is. So it's funny actually, where my parents live, they moved to their house when I was 7, right? I'm 46 now, so it's quite a long time ago. They're still the new people in the street. So their neighbours next door, I made friends with their daughter who was a year above me at school, and we became really close friends. And I used to get her to do all these crazy ideas with me. So we used to go to buy penny chews when they were a thing. We'd buy them, stretch them, sell them for 2p.
Stretch them?
Yeah, stretch them, sell them for 2p.
Why would you stretch them?
So they look bigger.
So they look bigger. So we could sell them for
Brilliant.
2p, right?
Yeah.
We used to do car washing. We used to sell stuff from our garages. My favourite was our tattoo business.
Right.
So we used to draw on our neighbours' hands, put something over the top. Ta-da, 50p, please. That was our tattoo
Amazing.
business. So her parents always said to me, "Oh, you're going to be a businesswoman someday." But they said it in a way like it was a really bad thing.
Yeah.
A bit cynical.
They're
Yeah.
very public sector, and they they were quite cynical about it, so that was quite funny. So I think looking back, I did have something there, but I definitely didn't have any role models. No one in my family. I didn't know anyone that had a business. I just liked making money, and it wasn't about having the money. And maybe we'll come on to this. For me, it's always been about actually having the freedom in lots of different ways.
Yeah.
So I set the first business up, and the way that happened was by this point I'm commuting down to London. There was a guy that I'd met who had a similar commute but from Leeds sort of area for one of the banks in Canary Wharf. So he was doing a similar sort of commute as me, and he was saying he was a bit fed up with working for the bank. He'd done 20 years there. He was a little bit older than me, and he wanted to set up his own business. And well, what are you going to do? A bit of consultancy. And I said, well, maybe we should team up. I look back and I just think, God, that was a bit reckless, really. Both had these fairly long corporate careers, but it did just work, and we had a little bit of a plan, but it wasn't fully formed. So we quit our jobs. I got paid some redundancy, so that was a bit of a
I was going to say,
bonus.
how did you have you had a bit of money? Okay.
I had a bit of money, and at that point I was still married. We split up 6 months after I set this business up, and I always feel grateful that it happened in that order, because if it had been the other way around, I'd have stayed at John Lewis and I'd have moved somewhere else to get a job. Yeah, I think so. I think that would have been the right thing to do as a mum.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful it happened in the order that it did, but it made things very, very stressful and very tight financially for a long time.
Yeah.
Because you're not earning that kind of corporate money when you set up a business, or most people aren't in any case. But yeah, we set the business up and we were always making money. It was always profitable. We just didn't take huge salaries. And
So how did you make it profitable? How did you find the graduates?
so we didn't find so it was quite a niche business where we used to design assessment processes for big companies like M&S, Boots, Expedia, AXA, these types of businesses, because we knew them all.
So you had those contacts.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we used to design the processes for them. And then the other bit, which was the bit that really took off, was we worked with universities to prepare their students to get graduate jobs. And we did that by hiring out, and this kind of evolved over time. We used to hire out football stadiums around the country where the universities were, and we would put the students through a mock assessment centre day. So typically we'd work with universities that had high proportions of widening participation students, so first time uni or come from more challenging backgrounds, etc., because they had more funding to do this sort of thing, because it was the unis that paid us. They'd send the students along, it would be embedded in a module. This is when we got it really good, so they had to come, so get them to turn up. They loved it because it was fun, because it was in a football stadium. And then
Did you have to pay for the football stadium?
Yeah, it was so fun. It was really good. And they would come and say they were on an accounting course. They'd rock up, and we would have prepped an assessment day that felt like they were coming to PwC's day or something similar.
Okay.
They'd then they'd move around the boxes, and we'd have assessors in each box. They'd do an interview, an assessment exercise, like a group activity, maybe a presentation, and then they'd finish and they'd get their feedback reports to take away with them that would tell them how they would have scored if it was a real thing, and give them some feedback.
It's a bit like the last day on The Apprentice type thing.
Yeah, kind of. But it was great because it was replicating what they would have in the real world, which was giving them the confidence that when they did it for real, they weren't messing it up because they knew what to do, or they were better prepared. So it worked really well. It was good. It was a good business. My business partner that I'd originally set it up with, he left after only a few years, and it does make me laugh. And I wonder whether he's ever heard me tell this story, but he used to say to me, "This is a great little business for one of us. It's never going to get more than 250 grand a year. So it's a nice business for one of us."
What turnover?
That's what he thought.
Yeah.
Right? And at this point, we had a virtual office. He was still down in Leeds. I was in Newcastle. Virtual office. And all of the assessors that we used were freelance. So we just paid them on an associate basis. So our costs were low. And that's why we were making money straight away.
Yeah.
And he left, and I was like, "No, you're wrong. It's going to do so much better." And he left at such the wrong time financially for him, because it just blew up after he left. And we would have we had contracts that, like, single contracts that were worth 250 grand each. So it was. I do kind of smile, and then I also feel a bit sorry for him, because I think he was a bit gutted that happened. But then equally, I actually don't think it would have blown up as much if he'd stayed.
Yeah.
Because at that point in the business, he was responsible for coming down to London and moving around, traveling around the country and winning the business, because he could be more mobile than me, because I had a toddler. And actually, the skill set was the opposite. He should have been doing the ops stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't believe now that I used to do the ops and manage the associates and do all the admin, because that is so not my strength at all. It's like the opposite of my strength. My strength's actually on sales.
Yeah.
So we were in the wrong roles. When he left, I had to go out and do the sales. At the point where he left, and we just split what was in the bank. I think at that point it wasn't I had to do a big buyout or anything, because it wasn't worth anything.
Yeah.
Because we didn't have any contracts. So the point where he left, the order book, if we'd had one, had nothing in it, because he had to win these year on year. So he left at the end of our financial year, took his money, and I was like, well, what am I going to do? Am I going to go and get a job? Am I going to go for this? And I thought, I'm going to go for it. So I did get out on the road and go and see people, which was challenging childcare wise. But within 6 weeks, I think I had about 200 grand's worth of business in those 6 weeks booked in. I thought, right, I can do this. And then all I did, it was so basic, but he used to be against this, was we had a flagship event that we used to run at the Manchester City Stadium at the Etihad. And I used to just invite all the unis that were a bit interested in doing it to come along. They'd get a nice sandwich, and they'd be able to go and observe what was happening, and then they could see the buzz from the students, and they wanted to do it at their uni. And that was the business model. It was so simple.
Right.
But he didn't want to do that, because he thought that if they came and observed it, they'd want to run it for themselves. And I was like, they don't. This is quite hard.
It sounds like he didn't have the right mindset. But,
Yeah, I just think it wasn't quite the right business for him. So it blew up. It did really well. I started getting loads of opportunities around raising my profile and being a bit more in the spotlight for what we did. So it was things like, awards was always part of our strategy and worked really well for us. I used to be speaking at events or on podcasts, or I wrote my first book when I had that business, and that really, really lifted things off, because no one in that industry had written a book, and I'd written a book for students and graduates to help them get their first graduate job.
Can I ask, so you're a single mum?
How do you have the time to do this?
And what and the motivation? So you're a single mum, you're running this amazing business, which is obviously doing really well.
Yeah.
How did you then motivate yourself to go, okay, I'm not going to write a book on top of it?
So two things, and it's linked to the time thing. So I did an accelerator program down in London, like a business accelerator thing, and they kept saying, you should write a book, you should write a book.
Okay.
And I thought, yeah, I'm going to write a book. And then what was hilarious about it was I was talking to the publisher that this accelerator worked with, and I was talking to them about, right, this book needs to come out in September to hit that graduate market, because that's when they apply for jobs, that's when they start looking. And the publisher said to me, all right, well, we need your manuscript in 3 weeks then to have it ready. So I, shit, 3 weeks.
I do like a deadline, but
do like a deadline.
Yeah.
However, the way that we were taught to write the books was that if you planned it all out and you had everything planned out, you could write about 1,000 words an hour. And they used to say to us, a business book's between 30 and 40,000 words. So I thought, right, okay, I can do this. And I had loads of content. So I did do it. I just knuckled down and did it. At that point, I gave up TV. So I used to be a soap addict because I was stuck in the house all the time with my daughters. So I would watch Coronation Street and EastEnders, maybe Emmerdale as well. Don't judge me. And I'd watch all the soaps, and they're on all the time. They're on like every night, aren't they? And I decided I'm going to give up the soaps. And giving up EastEnders actually was massive for me, because I'd watched it since the start as a little kid. I'd watched it, with my mum, and since I was a kid. And I did love EastEnders, although it's never been as good as like the Den and Angie days.
Never.
Could tell you a story about Angie. I'll maybe tell you that. When I was a kid and I bumped into. Anyway, another story. But amazing times watching all the soaps. So I was like, no, got to give those up.
Discipline,
create the time. And I've never watched a soap since then, because I realised how much time I was wasting. And I don't actually watch a huge amount of TV.
And what about Netflix now? Because I listen to all these podcasts, and it's all about, your discipline and your rituals, and we're pretty disciplined. But I do love a Netflix in the evening, like last hour of the day. And this part of me goes, but some of the stuff that's on Netflix, I mean, I did
trying to justify it.
No,
educational.
No, it's creative or art, or when I was an actor, like a really good drama series. I mean, I did watch Joe and Stacey last night. Don't judge me on that one. But you know what I mean? I sort of go, is it, if you really enjoy it and it's just like the last hour of the day, is it such a bad thing?
Do you know what? I don't judge anyone who watch what you. I mean, I love maths. Do you watch maths? Married at First Sight?
No. Oh, Married at First Sight. Yeah.
Love that. So I don't judge anyone, but I think if you want to create time, it is dead time. Yeah. So for me now, I don't watch loads of TV. I can go a week and I've not turned the TV on, and I've just not thought about it. But equally, if I'm knackered, I know this weekend, I'm going to be really tired because I've got a busy week. But then I've looked at my diary and I'm doing stuff all weekend. But last weekend, I didn't do anything other than do a yoga class and go for a massage, which was amazing. That's nice. Yeah, lovely.
So what do you do in your evenings? Are you working in your evenings?
So, yeah, quite often, although I'm trying to do a bit less of that because my daughter's 13 now. She doesn't want to hang out with me as much. She wants to FaceTime her mates and stuff. Yeah. So if she's around and wants to chat to me, I want to be available to do that. And I'm trying to sort of cook something relatively healthy for her in the evening as well. Yeah. So it just depends. But I think with the TV side of things, I do watch some TV, but it tends to be a binge on a Saturday afternoon when I'm having a bit of a sofa afternoon, but it wouldn't be every night.
So do you work in the evenings or do you read in the evenings?
My preference is to read. So I'm a morning person,
Me too.
100%.
Yeah.
I love the mornings. I can wake up naturally with no alarm and be raring to go most mornings. Yeah. But evenings, not great for me. So sometimes I have to do things in the evening. So I was telling you that I was at an awards do last night, had to do that. That's late. I have board meetings for some of the board roles that I've got in the evenings usually, and I do struggle with those. I've got to really psych myself up for them, especially if I'm chairing it and I've got to be on it. So I do find that difficult. So for me, my preferred evening would be to eat fairly early, to have a bit of time with Jess, who might play a board game or something. She loves a board game. Maybe watch something, but not necessarily. But my preference is go to bed early with my book. I love reading.
Like to do,
It's the only thing that really helps me switch off, because if I was sat watching Netflix on an evening, I'd have my phone and I'd be texting someone or I'd be replying to an email.
I tend to do that a bit as well. Okay, no, it's just good to know.
Off.
It's good to know because, and it's good for our listeners to know, is like what, you're not successful by accident. Do you
You've
know what
got
I
to
mean?
be disciplined.
There's some hours been put in there.
Do you know what? I had a conversation with a guy I know who very successfully scaled a business, sold it, and then has done it. He's on his third one now. And we were chatting about a year ago now. And we believe that if you put the hours in and you're just determined, we think that most entrepreneurs can make any business successful.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. I was thinking of unless I had to have a technical knowledge for something, I feel like I could turn my hand to most things.
Yeah.
But equally, you want to be interested in whatever it is, because that makes it all a bit easier, doesn't it? But I do think that's where people fall down. So where I've had friends or people I know that have set up businesses where it's not worked, it's been because they're missing that. There's a guy that I used to work with at John Lewis who was an amazing trainer. So he was probably the best person I've seen deliver training, really engaging, really great. And he left twice while I was there and came back to set up a training business, but he couldn't do all that disciplined stuff around going and doing the sales and doing the extra hours. He just wanted to rock up, do his training and go. That's not business. Yeah. So it didn't work. I've got another friend who is a barrister, and she is brilliant, and she got made redundant from a role maybe 10 years ago or so, couldn't find another role in the Northeast, set up on her own, and same thing, she couldn't do the sales, and so you've got to be able to be really determined and keep at it and do all the hours and things. I mean, she puts the hours in, to be fair, she has to, but she couldn't make it work either. So I do think you've just got to be determined and put the hours in.
Yeah, it's a good word, determined, isn't it? I think it's a mindset as well as putting the hours in. It's that when you see obstacles, when you're up against obstacles, what do you do with it? How do you react to it?
It's like when I just think about the entrepreneurial thing. When my dad, I suppose, was an entrepreneur. He came from Ireland with nothing and set up a very successful construction business. And so we've seen him working for himself, and we had that as a role model, I guess, And then, Lauretta and I were actors, but we quickly were like, oh, this is a bit crap, waiting for work. So we very quickly started writing our own stuff. We had a very successful comedy career up in Edinburgh year after year. I mean, it was amazing. It was relentless. But I had that drive to not sit around and wait for things to happen. So it kind of makes sense that we're at this stage now of kind of really wanting to try and scale a business. And I have a bit of experience in kind of getting out there, getting on the road, developing a show and trying to sell it, basically.
And not taking things personally.
Like with comedy as well. I mean, there's just so much rejection.
Well, that's the best grounding.
It is very good for grounding,
There's a trend in the Northeast. I don't know whether it's down here as well. Probably was down here like 10 years ago. We've just got it. But there's a trend at the moment where they're encouraged, I don't know who's running these things, but there's courses where it must be comedians running courses for business people to get them to try comedy. And I think the theory behind it is that whole rejection, and if you can cope with walking into a room and not getting the laughs and things, that actually then when you go on and present to a business audience, it's going to feel really easy.
I mean, we've had so many different shames, so much shame, so many different degrees and levels of shame that no rejection in the business world will quite feel what it felt like to stun a room into silence, which we've done many a time.
But we did one show where at the end we'd finished, but this show actually went on to do really well. I don't know why on this particular night, but the audience didn't know it had finished and no one clapped. And my mum was in the audience on that day, and she said to me, Lauretta, you need to employ someone to clap at the end.
To start the clap. But I'm like, we don't need to fucking start the clap. I mean, it should be obvious.
Yeah, and Mum, that was your job?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But what I wanted to ask you about, because as Lauretta and I sort of progress and, start to really look forward and what we want, I mean, I've heard a lot about kind of manifestation and setting your goals, visualising it, having a daily visualisation of the end goal, reverse engineering, whatever word you want for it. Was that part of your strategy? Do you believe in any of this stuff?
So I wouldn't describe myself as woo-woo.
Yeah.
I've been in groups where they're very woo-woo and I kind of roll my eyes a bit. However, I think there is something in it. So in 2016, I joined something called the Female Entrepreneur Association, FEA. And that was a great place for me at the point where my business partner had left, because I felt like I needed some support because I didn't know anyone in business. It was just me and my business partner. It's funny now because I get described as being really well connected in the business world in the Northeast, but I didn't know anybody apart from the people at the John Lewis store. Like that was it. And joining FEA was a real key moment for me because I felt like I had a bit more of a support network. Also, it was joining a local women in business type event that I used to go to, that I then bought and now run as a side hustle.
Wow.
Yeah, so they were both really key things for me. And in the Female Entrepreneur Association, they are quite woo-woo. There's a lot
are they? I wouldn't have thought that.
Yeah, there's a lot of Americans. No offense.
Sorry.
They're Canadians.
And they, okay, that's fine.
Sorry, we've got 2 interns here, just to let you know, Tina and Sydney.
So they're particularly into it.
Yeah.
And Carrie Green, who runs it, she's quite woo-woo, I would say, and she will do like visualizations and manifestation and all that sort of stuff. The bit that I think works though is she grounds it in some level of common sense and setting goals.
Yeah.
Now, if you write stuff down and you set goals, you are so much more likely to do it. And there's been loads of research about this. And that was the bit that I think made a big difference to me. So when I joined that membership, I got in because they did some kind of end of year review, and I thought, oh, that looks good, I'm going to join that, one of these freebies that then gets you to join the club. But it was really useful for me because it got me thinking about all the different things that had an impact on my business. And just an obvious one was around my social media. So it would say to you, where are you at with your followers and your engagement right now? Where do you want to be this time next year? And then it was working backwards. Right, okay, so if I want to add 1,000 followers to my LinkedIn network, right, how many is that a month? And then because I'd filled this out, I would then review it each month. And I did this for years. I was really sort of dogged with it, like, right, how many have I done this month? Okay, right, I'm 10 short, I'm going to go on and see if I can do something with that. So I was kind of competing with myself, I suppose.
Yeah.
But if I hadn't have written these things down and put it out there, I wouldn't have done them.
Yeah.
So I do believe in it in that sense. I also usually do a vision board, which I'm starting to sound really woo-woo. I'm not. And again, that was through this group because they would talk about vision boards. So I've got a cork notes board thing in the office that I've got at home, which I don't work at home that much because I quite like hanging out with my team and seeing people. I'm not great when I work at home, but it is in my home office. So when I do work at home, I do look at it again if it wasn't there. And what I do is I will look at what I had on it last year, the things that I've achieved, I take them off, write something on the back of it about what happened or just something of note, put it in a box, and then I'll add more things. So I might take things off if maybe they're not relevant to me anymore. They usually are. So, and then I'll add stuff on. And then each time I work at home, I just glance at it and I go, right, what am I going to do that's going to move me closer to hitting one of these things? So I do think about it in that sense, but it's grounded in logic rather than,
Well, I think it's quite interesting because we were talking about this the other day. I have to brainwash myself with stuff because sometimes I get a bit fearful.
We sort of shit ourselves a bit. We're like, oh my God, we're going to invest
putting
loads of money.
We're putting this order in. It's thousands. What if we don't sell? All of that kind of stuff. So I do have to...
You have to hold your nerve. It's really hard.
You do.
And I think your brain naturally goes to fearful thoughts and you naturally visualise. So your natural kind of propensity is to visualise the worst. So it's the fearful, to protect yourself. But why don't we visualise the best? And we have to really, I have to really, really push myself towards, okay, I'm going to visualise the best. And that's what it is.
They're both visualisations. Yeah, they're both visualisations. It's just fear, paralyses you. And visualising, successful things in your life, gives you energy and mobilises you. So they're actually both visualisations. But we have to work quite hard at this when we've got big decisions or, trying to raise money, like even thinking about remortgaging and to try and get capital in cash flow into the business, which is, I know any entrepreneur's nightmare is cash flow. And I don't, and this isn't one of my questions, like, sometimes I have to go, men do this all the time, just grow some fucking balls. They do this all the time. They don't even think about it. But like, I don't know whether we are, like, biologically are made to be safer. to protect, to kind of think smaller. And I don't know whether that's nature nurture. I don't know whether men are brought up with that belief of you can do anything, get out there. What do you think?
Yeah, so this is something I've looked at a lot because I'm doing a PhD part-time at Durham Uni in female entrepreneurship. And I'm looking at how do women entrepreneurs define success, and what does that look like for us? So it's a really, really interesting topic. And one of the things that I used a lot when I was putting my research proposal together was the Rose Review. So remember Alison Rose at NatWest, before she left, she did this Rose Review with the government, and it was all about female entrepreneurship. And what she found was that women typically have less visible role models. So that's one big thing. And when I think about when I was starting out, the only women in business really at that time that were very obvious was Karen Brady, who still is, and Michelle Mone.
Oh gosh!
And
you watched the
I
documentary?
loved Michelle Mone back in the day.
Yeah,
I thought she was great. I was going to go and she did these things. I look back now and I go, it was a bit scammy, where you could pay 10 grand and you'd spend the weekend with her in London and she'd go through all this stuff. And I nearly did one. In fact, I'd signed up to it, and it was when I still had my business partner. And then, because he's dead steady, he reflected on it over the weekend and thought, we probably shouldn't spend that money. So I didn't go. But that would have been interesting if I had. But she was great at the time. Yeah. And actually, the documentary is interesting because they're saying she wasn't as successful as she made out. I would kind of disagree with that bit. I know what she's done since is outrageous, and I think she's totally fallen from grace, quite rightly, or needs to a bit more, to be fair. But actually, she did build a business that was an 8-figure business. Most women do not achieve that at the moment. So I think she did achieve something. But
I think what it was style over content. So she seemed a lot more successful than she actually was. That's what I got.
I think so. But when you looked at the numbers, they were saying, well, she didn't do that well. But she's doing like 15 million or 20 million. Most of us would be pretty happy with that. So an interesting one. So no visible role models, and also less likely to want to take risks.
Yeah, that's the thing.
And I think you have to take risks, whereas you get a lot of men, and this is where we see this massive inequality in investment, because it's the men, it's the tech bros, it's the the young white posh kids that go and just ask for money and don't overthink it, and then if they spaff it all, they're not bothered, they just go and get some more and close it down and start again. Whereas I think as women, we're a bit more careful and we think these things through. So for me, when I was looking for investment for my current business, rather than go and I did approach an angel investor that I would have liked to have worked with, but it was more to work with her rather than for the money. But in the end, I ended up remortgaging my house.
Did you?
So my house money is
I feel good about that.
Well, I think as well, there's something
it's just an example.
Skin in the game as well.
I just want to ask, so you remortgaged your house, you're a single mum.
Yep.
Talk us through how you overcame fear in order to do that.
So I think that when I split up from Jess's dad, as I said earlier, 6 months into that first business, it was the right time. It was the worst timing and the best timing, because I would never have set a business up had it happened earlier. It gave me the moment to think, do I go and get a job and do something safe, or do I put everything into this business? And I was so trapped in the house at this time anyway, when you can't do anything and you're sort of bound by all these routines and stuff. So I thought, I'm just going to go all in, and I'm going to work really hard. And financially, I was in a really crappy position because I didn't have that income that I'd had from the big John Lewis job anymore. I had this crap income from the business. I was also on probably be quite a good rate at the moment, but a 4.99% rate on my mortgage, which was really bad at the time. We'd got this crap deal. I'd left it to him. Would never do that again. And it was a terrible deal at the time. And the mortgage was, I can't remember how much it was, about £650. That felt like quite a lot then. Yeah. It got worse though, because I was self-employed, but not for long enough to be able to prove to the bank I could pay for this mortgage. Now I could pay the £650, but because they wouldn't let me keep the house in my name, I had to get my dad to go on the mortgage, pretend he was going to work till he was 70, so that they would let me, he was basically on this mortgage, and then they would let me keep it. But because of his age, it meant that our term, which was maybe on 23 years at that point, went down to 11 years. And then, did the rate go up as well? I can't. No, it mustn't have. It must.
So you've got to pay it back quicker.
Payment, yes. So the payment went from £650 £150 to £1,400 a
Wow,
month.
that is a lot.
It was crazy, and I had £1,000 a month in nursery fees, and I was and we were paying ourselves £2,000 a month at this point.
Yeah.
So it was
That's not a lot to live
crazy.
off. Yeah.
So I was fortunate in that my parents were able to loan me some money, and they're not mega rich.
Yeah.
Like with the, my dad worked, my mum mostly didn't work, and they've got 3 kids. Like our first car, I remember as a kid, had holes in it. It was
Yeah.
my dad had got it from his brother. It was his old car. So we weren't rich. We weren't well off. We'd do holidays to Wales every couple of years or something. I didn't get on a plane till I was late teens. So we didn't have lots of money. But my parents are careful. And so they loaned me 30 grand to just live for a couple of years. So I had this thing in my head, and I don't know where I got it from. Maybe it was thinking about when I wanted to get my dad off the mortgage, because he really wanted to retire as well. He's like, I need to retire. It's like, it'll be fine, Dad, it'll be fine. So I just had in my head 2 years, get through the next 2 years. Maybe it was linked to just going to school, or maybe thinking that would create some level of freedom. Arguably, that actually is more challenging, because childcare at school is harder than when they're at nursery.
It finishes at
and
3,
they're
doesn't it?
always
Yeah.
off as
Yeah.
well. Like
Yeah.
they're off holidays all the time. So I think I had that challenge, but I was like 2 years head down, and that was when I would work in the evenings. Definitely, I would do really a lot of hours work whenever she was asleep. Work. But I knew there was an end goal to this, so that definitely helped. I can't remember what your question was originally.
No,
It was
like,
around-
so you
I said
remortgaged.
the question was about fear.
That's
so
right.
How did
That's
you
right.
overcome the fear?
So I think because I'd done that, and then obviously that did pay off.
Yeah.
Did pay off, and I knew it would. I just had this thought. I just knew.
Is
it
it
would
gut
work.
instinct?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I had that. Then I sold that business in 2019 to some absolute dickheads, and stayed on, and that's being polite, right?
Yeah.
Stayed on, did my earn out, got that, and then was meant to stay on a bit longer to get a bigger payoff, but I hated it. They were really dodgy, in my opinion. They did some things that I thought were really wrong ethically. So I ended up having a massive fight with one of them, and decided to leave, and lost loads of money because a lot of my money was tied up within share options. So left, set up what is my current business the same night, but then had to put money into it, because I knew, I'd reached, maybe it was a bit of ego actually, I'd reached a certain level. People knew who I was. It was a successful business. I didn't want to go from that to sat around, what am I going to do next? Am I going to wait for my restrictions to end so I can replicate the business? No, I didn't want to do that. So I then thought I need to but have a business that's of decent size from the off. I didn't want to go back to working in my bedroom again, because I wanted to scale faster. So I did remortgage my house and took a couple £100,000 out to stick into the new business, so that I could open with a big office space, I could have a marketing budget, and I could hire a couple of people as well. So that was a risk.
That is risky, yeah.
The business still owes me money. We're only in year 3, but again, I was pretty confident, and that's going to make me work harder and make it work and make me find solutions, right? But I feel like you have to take risks, and also there's something around who you surround yourself with. And I hang out with a lot of business people. I've actually kind of grown away from a lot of friends who aren't in that space, which is sad in some ways, but they just don't get it. They don't understand why I might want to work on a weekend or go to an event on an evening. They just don't get it. So being around people that do get it, they encourage you to be a bit risky, and you see them doing it, you see it paying off. And I think it's that whole problem solving mindset. I might go and chat to a friend and say, oh my God, this has happened, what do you think? And they'll give me their perspective. Right, great, okay, and then it'll give me an idea to do something. So yeah, I think risk taking, you've got to do it.
And I think as females, we're less likely, aren't we
are.
to do it?
That's the facts.
So you have to work even harder. You have to counteract that fear.
And what do you believe, being a single mum, what resources did it give you, the fact that you did all this whilst being a single mum?
100% problem solving,
Yeah.
juggling, gosh, so many things, resilience, all sorts of things. But I think a couple of interesting things I think when I reflect back on that time was, I didn't want to tell anyone when I first became a single parent, because I didn't know any single parents. No one in my circle had got divorced. I was definitely the first one. And I suppose I had stereotypes in my head about what is a single mom. I didn't want to tell people that was my situation, because not long after that, I sort of took over that business, and I didn't want any prospects or clients to think, oh, she's going to be unreliable, or she's going to be this,
so
she's
bad.
that.
Yeah.
Crazy really now. But maybe that was in my head, and actually
I think it is a narrative,
my
though,
own
yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
But also, I think I was so traumatized by that time in general, because obviously I was getting divorced, and there was just so much stuff around all of that I just didn't really want to tell people. I was quite a private person.
Yeah.
So that is interesting, and maybe that was a bit of self-preservation at that time. But actually then what I started doing, because I do some charity stuff as well, and a lot of that was in my own time, I got to the point where I was like, if I can't take Jess to any of this stuff, I'm not doing it. So I either bring her or I don't go. So then people were quite flexible about me bringing her to things. Now that meant she got to do some really cool stuff. So when I did my TEDx talk in Birmingham, I got permission for her to come to that. She loved it.
How old was
because
she then?
She was 8, I think. She got to run around backstage with all the camera crew. There was a green room with a box of 48 Mars bars in it.
Right, yeah.
Can you imagine what
I
happened
thought it was
to
the talk
those?
that she loved.
Oh, she didn't even watch. She didn't even watch. She went, oh, I didn't even watch it.
Yeah.
But she loved the experience. She got special treat, which is cute, you know.
Yeah.
And she ate all the Mars bars, and she's running around helping the camera guys and stuff, because we were there for 2 days, because you do all the pre stuff and whatnot. And she loved that experience. And what was really hilarious was the year after that. I think that was the year I sold the business, or it was around about that time, and I had some money at this point, and I said, all right, let's plan where we're going to go on our travels.
Yeah.
And she's like, can we go back to Birmingham? It wasn't on
funny.
my
No.
wish list, but I think bringing
Where did
her
you
to
go?
stuff.
Just-
God, we went everywhere.
Did you?
We had a year where we did like 8 different holidays. In
Good
that
for
year.
you.
Yeah, we just went.
You worked
nuts.
hard,
We
and-
went
yeah.
nuts, but it was being able to bring her to stuff. So that was really important. So people got to know her, and it was great for the charity that I chair, because we'd get her selling raffle tickets. No one says no to
Yeah.
the kid.
No. Yeah.
So that worked really well. But also, I started being a bit more vocal about my situation on things like LinkedIn. And it just started off slowly, because, as I said, I didn't want to overshare. And I started talking about it a bit more. And I started talking about it when I was doing talks. And it's still now the thing that connects me with people the most, because people just get it, or people might be in unhappy relationships. And I would get DMs from people. After I did my TEDx talk, I remember getting loads of DMs from people saying, oh my God, I'm in this horrific marriage and I just want to leave, and I'm watching your TEDx and it made me cry, because I'm thinking about, I was like, whoa, this is crazy that people
Did you
are
talk
opening
about
up.
your ex in your TEDx?
I don't think I talked about him
Specifically.
Probably should know, shouldn't
Yeah.
I talked about being a single parent.
Okay, yeah.
A little bit, and that definitely connected with people. So then what I found is actually talking about it actually connected me to people better than not talking about it. And I think on things like LinkedIn or any socials, people do warm to you if you share things, because it just makes you a bit more human.
Yeah.
Whereas not talking about it, I think maybe made me a bit unapproachable or a bit too professional.
Yeah.
So any content that
Anything
I
that
do,
makes you human, I suppose, isn't it?
and any content I do now that references Jess, it still does really well. Not that I'm doing it, just for
Pull
likes,
out Jess again.
pimper out
Yeah.
some likes. No, don't do that. But but it does work. And then now I just own it, and I just think, do you know what? Like it's totally fine. I'm just gonna talk about it, because this is me. This is me. So it's genuine.
And I think sharing that vulnerability is also really, really powerful. People find that really relatable.
I think so.
I just wanted to ask a question about, because Sharon and I are obviously, we're in midlife, and we're starting a business. Not starting, we've started our business, but
you're in it.
We're in it.
Thick of it.
And as we started at the beginning of the conversation, sometimes people, say to us, it's a bit too late. Why are you doing it now? And you're, obviously, they say your best years are potentially behind you.
Tell them to piss off.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think now is a great time for anyone to start a business. And actually, I think what you see a lot more of now, when I rewind, when I was talking about role models when I started out, there weren't any. Now there's loads, and there's loads of older people that are starting businesses who are smashing it. A good example would be, do you know the lady that owns it's a collagen brand, Absolute Collagen, Maxine.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, didn't she start that business in her 50s?
Yeah.
And
Trini.
I was sat with
Yeah.
Trini actually at the,
Oh,
so the
were you?
awards do that I was at last night. When I was at it last year, I was on the table with Trini, so I was.
Tell me that she's
quizzing her.
nice.
She was lovely.
Oh,
yeah,
good, good.
she was really nice. Like a little bit stern,
Yeah.
I would say, but
Yeah.
but also like really nice and really impressive and very sharp and very glamorous. I mean, she
Yeah,
always
she
looks
looks
amazing,
amazing.
doesn't she? As
But
she should.
she comes across very eccentric. That's what I quite like.
I think
she's
so.
not
Yeah.
afraid to be herself.
I think
She's
so.
a bit
but-
batty, actually.
Yeah.
Like, on her social media, it's so quick and so sort of like, it's like,
Yeah.
whoa, like a bit ADHD.
She
but-
was talking though about taking risks and that she had to sell. I think she said she didn't own anything because her ex-husband killed himself, didn't he, or something?
That's right, yeah,
And
yeah.
she was saying that she didn't have any money and she sold all of her clothes and things to set this. So she took a risk.
Oh, really?
And she
Doesn't
was.
sound as risky as remortgaging.
I know,
Yeah.
I know,
She
but I
sold
feel
10
no, but I
handbags.
feel like she didn't own her place, so she couldn't
Oh,
do
okay.
that, or
Oh,
maybe
right.
she
Yeah.
sold her house as well.
I
or
sold
something.
my Louis Vuitton.
Yeah, I know. But she did say that. What was she saying to me? It was really interesting because she was talking about how she really. She said she didn't have anything, and she's grown that business to
Oh, it's
loads.
incredible.
And they gave a stat at the awards about what her business was supposedly worth, and she sort of whispered to me, "It's worth a lot more than that." I was
Really?
like,
Oh, right,
Go
okay.
you, go
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
She's smashing it. So
Yeah.
yeah, there are some visible role models now, and I just think ignore all of that.
Yeah.
And I also think that if you're doing something that you love, and this is a great thing about having a business rather than a job, is it doesn't feel like work.
No, it doesn't.
And I
Yeah.
also think that I don't think I'll ever retire, ever. I think I'll always be doing something. And I think it keeps you young because I
Yeah.
see people, you know, going back to my parents' street where no one ever leaves. There's 2 maths teachers that live 2 doors down from my parents, and they retired quite early. And the husband dropped dead maybe 6 months after he'd retired. There's some people that live a bit further up the street, and the husband in that marriage, he died quite quickly after retiring. And I'm not saying you retire and you just drop dead.
No.
Like, that's really unfortunate and very sad. But you do see people kind of lose it a little bit, or you've got to have something that
Some
keeps you
purpose.
going.
Well, there's lots of stats around that I think your chances of dying once you retire increase by, I don't know what the stat is, but it's quite
is that not just
high.
because you're older?
No, it's because people...
Certain death.
Yeah.
No, but people need that purpose and
I
they
think
need that
so.
motivation. And
Well,
it's
actually,
like-
me and Loretta always say so because we haven't got pensions, we haven't kind of thought all this stuff through, and we're always like, I'm not going to be able to retire. But then I go,
Do you
well,
care?
I don't care. Good.
Yeah,
I actually
yeah.
do absolutely do what I love, and also to that point of like, doesn't feel like work. They'd be off, and I'd be like, oh God, I haven't really done much work, and I'm like, I did do work. I was working in the evenings. I was selling it. It doesn't feel like work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is the dream,
Yeah,
isn't it?
it is the
And I
dream.
think I don't ever take massive holidays. The most amount of time I ever take off tends to be around Christmas, because Christmas is my favourite time to be off. I love Christmas anyway. I want to do all the family stuff. And it's the one time of the year where you don't get loads of emails
Yeah,
because most
that's
people
true.
are off. So I always take the full Christmas holidays off, which is usually 2.5 weeks for Jess. And it's her birthday around then as well, so it's nice. But I am so bored by the end of it. I'm so ready to get
Yeah.
back. And I think that if you weren't working, if you were fully retired, every day is a weekend.
Yeah.
So then you're not getting that kind
Yeah.
of,
Yeah.
you need something. So I think, I mean, I already know, I think what I would do, you know, at some point I'll probably sell this business and then I'll move to a portfolio career and then I'll just not stop until I die. I'll
Yeah.
just always have
Yeah.
something going on.
But
And
I always say that to you as well, Loretta, like, because sometimes you sort of go, oh God, you know, building your business, it is a little bit 24/7 sometimes. And then when we take a break, like we went to Malta this year for like 12 days with the kids. And I feel myself getting a bit tetchy towards the end of it. And I'm like, if I had this all the time, I'm not sure. We
No.
both go a bit like, so I'm ready to get back now.
yeah,
So
and we
you-
probably never really switch off because I bet you reply to emails.
I was replying
bet you
to
put some
emails,
stuff on the
yeah.
socials.
Yeah,
you know,
I
there's
did,
always
yeah.
stuff that we
Yeah.
will do just to keep things
Ticking
things
along.
going.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think it's a bad thing. I
Yeah,
really don't. I think
yeah.
if you enjoy what you do.
Yeah, brilliant.
Well, I think you're an amazing example of, you know, a woman in business, an entrepreneur, you know, so down to earth and just vibrant and brilliant.
Thanks.
So,
Yeah, and just a great role model, even for us. I mean,
Yeah.
forget about our listeners, but they will find you. But just it feels really timely for us because we are in that
that kind of thick of it, of like, we've got to make some big decisions, let's grow some balls. So like having you here today is just really timely, and it's really inspired me to just think a bit bigger and be a bit braver. So thank you so much for coming down and having a chat with us. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Gavin Sisters Wellness Show. If you liked this episode, please share it with your friends or anyone that you think would benefit from it. It really helps the podcast and the algorithms. We don't know what algorithms are, but we've been told that we need to say that.
And also, if you do want to connect with Sophie, you've got a brilliant book out there as well at the moment. Remind the listeners what your book is and how they can connect with you.
So the book is called From Unknown to Unforgettable, How to Build a Personal Brand That Goes Beyond the Bio. So it's all about the stuff that I do now around how to raise your profile, which is really important if you want to grow a business. And you can connect with me over on LinkedIn or Instagram.
Can I just say, we're listening to your audio, which was fantastic, of the book, but we've also got our interns to listen to it as well, because they're going to be doing some jobs for us. So
yes, some like what are we doing? Some awards.
Yeah,
great.
So it's been really useful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
You've been listening to the Gavin Sisters Wellness Show. If you enjoyed the show, please follow us, share, spread the word. It will really help. And obviously, if you didn't like it, then keep stum. We're single mums.